There is an insidious plague that is gradually creeping throughout our country. It is slowly but surely suffocating the young people, starving out the older generation, and killing the very lifeblood of this nation. No, it isn't drugs. It isn't smoking or drinking or poverty or racism, though it's connected to all of these. It isn't even heart disease or cancer. No, the problem is education, or rather, the lack thereof. We live in a modern world with ever more and more incredible scientific discoveries, with more and more amazing technology, with deeper and deeper delvings into human nature and experience. But at the same time, we're seeing the educational ability, or knowledge, if you will, of younger generations become paralyzed through ignorance and lack of effort. In this speech, I wish to demonstrate this problem, identify what I believe to be the primary cause, and offer what could be the only real solution to it. In a survey performed about 5 years ago by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, around 24 countries throughout the world were rated according to the ability of their 16 to 24-year-olds in the areas of numerical skills, literacy, and problem-solving skills. In the data collected for all three of the surveys, the United States was ranked among the bottom 4 countries. According to Jonathan Rothwell from the Brookings Institution, quote, "For the nation's 17-year-olds, there have been no gains in literacy since the National Assessment of Educational Progress began in 1971. Performance is somewhat better in math, but there's still been no progress since 1990, close quote. In an article by Shalina Chatlani from Education Dive, she stated that, quote, "The Pew Research Center reported that 23% of Americans surveyed said they hadn't read a single book in 2013. In 2006, the statistic was 16%. The decline in overall reading coincides with statistics from last year's National Association of Educational Progress report, which found that just 37% of high school seniors were at a proficient or higher level of reading. Renaissance Learning's 2016 report shows high school seniors are reading at a 6th grade level, and only 9% of students in high school read texts above a middle school complexity, leaving students ill-prepared for college-level reading. I could cite more examples, but it should be pretty clear by this point that even just based off of statistics and studies, there's currently a serious lapse in the educational ability among students. Now, why is this a problem? Well, the list could go on and on. For decades, America has been considered the greatest nation in the world. Why? Well, one of the biggest reasons is because we've had some of the most brilliant, the most innovative, and the most determined minds in the world. Whether in industry, in the sciences, in rights, or in the arts, America's been at the forefront. But this is starting to change, and we're already seeing that change begin to impact people's personal lives in many ways. Poverty, mental health, physical health, personal fulfillment, decision-making skills, strong personal values are all critically tied to one's knowledge and education. The number of possible reasons for this problem is almost as extensive as the problem itself. Poor materials, poor teaching, government-imposed curriculums, too much emphasis on extracurricular activities like sports, or just an overall hard time finding educational activities. Those are all ideas that have been bounced around. But I can't subscribe to any of them. They just don't make sense to me. So many of the greatest people throughout history have had really bad educational opportunities. Look at Abraham Lincoln. He grew up as a poor backwoods farm boy who read borrowed books by candlelight. But he became one of the greatest lawyers in the country and eventually President of the United States. Look at Einstein, who's considered by many to be possibly the greatest scientific mind in history. He was kicked out of high school for being too dumb. I can't believe that these external issues are the root of the educational problems that we're seeing. No, to me, the answer is much more sinister and closer to home than this. I believe that the answer is simply this. As students, we usually just don't care enough about what we're learning. We aren't used to the amount of effort that it takes to get a really good education, and we don't care about it enough to make that extra effort. I say this partly because I'm as guilty of it as anyone else. When I look back on the college classes that I've taken, where I didn't do as well as I wanted, I can see that the problem wasn't my lack of ability or lack of effort from the teacher. The problem was my lack of effort. This lack of caring, I believe, is the primary culprit. Distractions during class, halfway effort on homework and assignments, lack of memory retention, all culminating in poor performance and low grades, are primarily due to us simply not caring enough about what we're learning. The reason this problem is so insidious is because the solution isn't as easy as we want. There's no governmental regulation or school policy or educational curriculum that can fix it. It has to come from the individual. Benjamin Franklin once said, "An investment in knowledge pays the best interest." If we wish to succeed intellectually or in any other area in our lives, we must understand this concept. We must understand that knowledge is probably the most valuable thing that we acquire in our lives. Every goal we have in our lives, whether in our career, in friend and family relationships, in smart decision making, or even if you just want to be a good person, it is all dependent on our ability to learn about and understand the world around us. There's no shortcut to this. It can only come through sincere, diligent effort. And that effort will only come if we really want it enough. So, at this point, we have to ask ourselves an important question. Knowing what we do about knowledge and education, what do we want? What do you want? Do you want to succeed in your goals? Do you want to avoid this modern malady of ignorance? Do you want to rise above mediocrity to become great in whatever area you want? The answer is simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. We must care enough about our education and about learning to make the necessary effort. That is the key to a rewarding life. To quote William Shakespeare, ignorance is the curse of God. Knowledge is the wing wherewith we fly to heaven. Thank you.